It says a check on it. Hello, everyone. This is Francine. How are you today on My Two Cents? We're talking about caregiver anxiety. I'm so glad to see everybody here. I hope everybody has a good evening, good weather. We had a storm here. I got caught in the storm, and it was pretty intense. So I hope everybody else is out there and they're safe and they're dry. I was so glad to get home and be dry. But thank you all for coming on tonight. My two cents is about the shows that we put on Autumn is Here, podcasts that we listen to. And even if you haven't listened to the show, you can still come on My Two Cents and hear some information about it and talk about some points about it. Today we're talking about caregiver anxiety. When Autumn is Here, we spoke to Miss Bonnie Brindle, and she talks about anxiety. She is actually she has actually went through it, and she talks about her experience and things like that. So now that has led her to work in the field. She is the anxiety avenger. She does everything to try to help people to eliminate anxiety or deal with anxiety from young to old. So had an interesting talk with her. And if you haven't seen the show, please look at the show. Autumn is Here. You don't have to look at it now, but you can still be on this. But take a look at the Anxiety Avenger. It's very interesting, very good point. Glad to see some of you here. Hi, Jakai. Hi, Jakai. Hello from Autumn is Here. Hello. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Let me know, whoever's here, let me know where you're coming from, where you're at. Yes. Happy Juneteenth. Yes. Hello, Lizette. Happy Juneteenth. Lizette is coming in from Delaware. Yes. I hope people have enjoyed this holiday and was able to do some positive things for this holiday. And I assume everybody's off, but maybe everybody's not off. But if not, hopefully you enjoyed some things. They had some very nice things outside when the weather was good. Got a little storm, but earlier in the day, there was nice weather for us to celebrate the holiday. So I hope everybody has got a chance to celebrate the holiday. Hello, Elizabeth. How are you? Hi. Lucy Shields from Texas. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. So tonight, and happy Juneteenth to everyone. Tonight, we're going to talk about caregiver anxiety. Now, anxiety is something that we can't avoid. We haven't, people may not even recognize it, but we all have it. Hi, Vanessa. Thanks for tuning in. We may not recognize that we have it, but anxiety shows up in so many different ways. In some ways, they're very subtle, and some ways you don't even realize that you have it. So one way is I would like to talk about caregivers and anxiety, because we don't even realize how much anxiety we go through. It's funny that when we were talking, and I was talking to Bonnie, it was very interesting because I was relating to some of the things that she was saying, how it shows up when you get either aggressive or you're overwhelmed and things like that. And I was thinking about all the things that I had gone through with my mom, and never identifying it as anxiety. It was just like there were days that were just tough. There were days that it was hard to deal with, and anxiety about the next day. What am I planning for the next day? Am I be able to have everything in place? Will I be able to do everything I need to do and then get to work? Will somebody be here? Will if there's a home attendant comes in, will they come in on time and stuff like that? A caregiver has a lot of anxiety, not only if you're a caregiver for someone that is your family member, but even professional caregivers. You have a lot of anxiety because, sometimes professional caregivers, they're not sure what they're walking into. And sometimes even if you are there to care for the person, they have family members that are there also that are not caring for the person at that time. You're supposed to be caring for them, but then they have family members. And it's sometimes very difficult to be a caregiver and a professional caregiver and go into a house where they have family members there, because the family members tend to put their 2 cents in, or, say that, something that you're doing, oh, she doesn't like that, or he doesn't like that. And you're trying to do your professional job. And that can be stressful. And you can have anxiety over, like, I hope so-and-so is not there when I get there. Or, when you're taking care of somebody and they have a relative come over and you have a daily regiment for them. You regularly go for walks, or you regularly do something at a certain time so they can relax. You might take them out and they can relax. And then here you go, they have company come over, and they're a family member, and they're like, no, well, I want to stay and talk to them. And then what do? You tell them, well, we have a regular walk, so you can come walk with us. If they don't want to, then it can become a hassle, and you can get anxiety from that. So there's so many different ways to get anxiety. People don't believe that, well, not that people don't believe, but people don't recognize in all the ways that it shows up. Nervousness. Some people have nervous habits and things like that, that they don't deal with, and anxiety comes from when you're younger and you don't realize it. Bonnie speaks about how when she was younger, she didn't realize that she had anxiety because she was a young girl, and she talks about how her life is and how she was afraid, and she could talk to animals, but she was just afraid to even speak to people outside and things like that. And young, you don't really know what that is, but unfortunately, like, parents didn't recognize it. And one of the things we want to talk about, make sure that parents can recognize that whether their child is going through anxiety or having issues or anything like that, because if you don't take care of it, it just grows with you and goes with you, and it stays with you, and it shows up somewhere in your lifestyle, in your marriage, in your friendships. It shows up, and somehow you may not be able to connect because it was never dealt with, and you don't even realize that it's coming from way in your past as growing up. Elizabeth says it can throw your entire day off. And you are so right. Yes, when you have other family members in there, or somebody there, that when you come in and you're a professional caregiver, and someone else comes in and they say, well, we want to do you already fixed the meal for them, and they brought them over something to eat, and they're like, no, this is our favorite, we want to do this, we want, you want to be respectful to the family. But I'm sure that sometimes the professional caregiver feels like, well, why aren't you stepping up to take care of her? You know what I'm saying? I understand that. So it's a frustration thing, and you still have to be professional. You still have to be professional, but I understand that it's a frustration thing with that, but as far as anxiety, it's something that you're thinking about that might happen, that is not realistic, that may not really happen. That's the thing with anxiety. It's something that your thoughts are thinking ahead of time. What if this happens? Or maybe I should do this, or maybe I should do this. And you get nervous and stuff like that about something that in the future that may not even happen. Kind of keep that in mind when you're planning stuff. And that's why planning is so important, because you don't want to feel anxious about your next move, or about your next day, or about your future. There are things that we can do to take a break, step back, and stuff like that, so we can eliminate some of the anxiety when you feel yourself getting overwhelmed, or just sometimes it comes out physically. Sometimes you'll get sweats and things like that. Sometimes anxiety can show up physically, and you may not even recognize it. It may be just something that goes on with you. But think about that. If anxiety, either take a breath, remove yourself, have somebody take over for you, give yourself a minute. When things, some days, you have days when you're caregiving for somebody and everything kind of goes wrong. Like, everything goes wrong. The food burns, or the person doesn't feel like getting washed up. And it could be the simple things like that, just simple things that can give you anxiety if you're caring for someone, but of course you have to try to stay patient, try to stay, ahead of the game. Talk calmly to people, talk calmly to them. Even if you get upset, take a breath, talk calmly to them, try to give them something that may take their attention off of something, like to put on something on TV that they really like, that they can look at that they won't be frustrated for a while, and they can have a moment to their self, and then you can have a moment to yourself, and then you can get back into it. You know, anxiety, of course, when you have anxiety, you can go to therapists. People don't realize that caregivers need therapy too. You know, even while you're being a caregiver, sometimes people do therapy after, if their person passes away and stuff like that, and they've cared for them for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, however long, and they go seek therapy, which is really good. But what we don't do, we don't get therapy during. And that's a point that we want to talk about. It's good to have therapy during. It's good to have somebody you can talk to during, to get some help, even if it's maybe not something you do regularly, but every now and again, maybe seek out someone, a therapist, a counselor, someone to say, I'm feeling this way, or this always happens to me, or, you know, that way it'll help you during the time that you're caring for someone. They can give you some pointers, some things to do, that will help you during the time that you're a caregiver. Hello, Sonia. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I appreciate that. So if anybody, I don't know if anybody watched this show. It's called the Anxiety Avenger on Autumn is Here. If you watch the show, if you have any comments about the show, if you have any questions about the show, please hit me up, let me know in the comments. I really appreciate that. It really was a good show, and it's amazing how someone started off as a child with anxiety, and she built it into a business. She's actually a teacher, a middle school teacher, and she recognizes that even in the children that she teaches, how they, how parents don't really deal with it or don't recognize it. Some kids have anxiety of even going to school. If you have a child, that sometimes you have to confront them if they just don't want to go to school or stay up in their room. There are different signs that come out. But she took that all the way up into adulthood, and she deals with seniors also that have anxiety. Now, with seniors with anxiety, there's something to think about. I don't know the ages of everybody on here, but we are going to be seniors if we're not seniors yet. Some of the anxiety about getting older, some of the things, is realistic. Thinking about, getting older, not working anymore. What am I going to do with my time? Who's going to take care of me? Am I going to be well, and live healthy? These are things that we should think about, so we don't have anxiety over them. We should think about that ahead of time. So we can plan and have less anxiety, because it's the unknown. If you were a person that's working forever and you work for 50 years and now you're not working, and as we get older, of course, our body deteriorates and things happen to our body, and then as we get older, our friends leave us, and, people relocate, people pass away. It's anxiety. I'm so used to going to my weekly card game, and now there's nobody to play cards with because people have gone on or something like that. So you get anxiety over that. If we talk about it, we'll be able to deal with it better. Plan ahead of time, your retirement, things like that, so you won't get anxiety, be like sitting there and not having anything to do. Plan that you're going to volunteer. There are so many things and places that you can volunteer your services for, that you can still engage. Make sure as you grow older, just do not pull yourself out of the social atmosphere, because it helps you and other people to be able to still engage, and it will lessen the anxiety about every day, because you'll have a plan to go somewhere, to plan to do something each day. And it may not be every day, but you may have a plan to do something Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday. That in itself helps you to look forward to something, helps you to know that you're going to be engaged with people and things like that. Elizabeth has a comment here. She says, sometimes you have to just take a day or two off to get it together and relax. That helps. You have to help yourself in order to help others. Yes. You have to help yourself in order to help others. Yes. Sometimes you do have to take a day or two off. Sometimes people feel the pressure and they don't stop, and what I remember from being a caregiver is that the things that when Bonnie was talking, I was thinking about all the things that I did, and I didn't even recognize it was anxiety. And now I think about, wow, I probably should have done something differently. I probably should have took a break. I probably should have looked for some support or something like that, or had a respite or something like that for my mom. There were times when I just wanted to sleep, or I just wanted to just no one call my name. I remember that clearly. I didn't want anybody to call my name for anything, especially when you're dealing with someone with dementia, because my mom would repeat herself. So she would constantly call me and love her, but that was very frustrating, and I just, I didn't want to hear my name. And I remember like going like, I just don't want to hear anybody call my name. That was anxiety. That was anxiety. And I didn't know what to do, step away, whatever. So, if you have anxiety, and I would say everybody has some kind of anxiety, think about it, examine yourself, examine your life, and see how we can be aware of it first, and the things that we possibly can do about it. Because you may not think it is affecting your life, but it is affecting your life. And whether you do therapy, whether you do chanting, whether you meditate, whether you pray, whether you talk to a friend about it, whatever it is, try to do something about it and just calm the anxiety. Because sometimes people, you don't realize, like sometimes, how we and I know that's probably was anxiety for me too. Binge eating. I know that, like now I know that was anxiety, like binge eating, like just like that soothes me or calms me or something like that. Whatever it would do at the time, it was because I was had anxiety about something. I was nervous about something, or worried about the next day, or just wanted to not do anything. I wanted days where I didn't have anything to do. And that's kind of, impossible when you have somebody who has dementia and that lives with you, that you have that day. So, I'm learning so many different things that I've gone through, and I'm glad that I've gotten through it. But I probably, if I would have had help, if I would have had counseling, if I would have had a therapist, I might have had some easier days. I might have been able to approach my mom differently. I might have not have some crying spells, which is what I've had, not been able to, function, you know, after taking care of her, going to my job and being in a better mood. There were times when I went to my job and I would sit at my desk and I either be crying, or I had to put on something religious and put it in my ear, and I'll be like, it was a leave me alone kind of stance. They knew to leave me alone. Okay. Which may not have been nice, but that's what I had to do. That's what I had to do to get my head together, you know. And some people are caregiving by themselves, and it's really hard. And I'm just want to say to everybody, if you are caregiving by yourself, get support, get help, recognize the anxiety. It's not a shame in it. That's another thing. There's a shame attached to it. Like, it's like you don't know how to handle this, or you're out of control, or it is not. There's not. You need to get help. Get help. Recognize it. Get help. Tell somebody, a trusted friend, that this is driving me crazy. We don't need you to be crazy if you're taking care of someone else. Also, for the person that you're dealing with, if you see that they're agitated or they have anxiety, you know, try to ask for help for them. You can ask for support for them. They can get therapy. They can get exercise things that they can do. They can tell you over the phone certain things that you can do yourself. It's not hard. There are things that you can do yourself that will help the person that you're caring for relax, have an easier day. It could be things that where you put on some music and stuff like that they like and they recognize, and that calms them. Or maybe get them dressed and take a walk, sit in their favorite park or something like that, and that gives them some time to do something else. So there are different things. If you need help, just ask for that. um, I was going to, I don't think I can do it. I don't know how to do it, so I can't do it right now. I wanted to put the link into the chat, but I can't do it right now on the computer. But if you get a chance to go to Autumn is Here podcast and can look at the anxiety Avenger. And if you look at that, you will get some tips. You will be able to understand it better, understand that you're not alone. Everybody goes through it. It's something that we need to address and talk about. I remember just growing up, we just dealt with stuff. It wasn't a name for it, wasn't a label for it. or they would say, oh, so and so is crazy. We use that and throw that around, and it's not nice. But we didn't have um, the label of saying, okay, this is anxiety, this needs attention to it, or stuff like that. Or it would be like, your parent would just tell you, you better sit down and stay still, stuff like that. Maybe the child has anxiety. I don't know. But we would just, we would just deal with it in that way, but without dealing with it. So we need to be better. We need to be able to understand more about it. And if we understand more about it, we will be better in handling it for ourselves, for our children, and for our elder adults and the people that you're caring for. So um, that's just what I want to talk about, and I wanted to make sure that everybody, if you looked at it, you got something out of it. I hope that you realize that you're not alone, and I'm not telling people to confess here or say that they're going through anxiety here, but if you are going through anxiety, think about it. Think about how you can get help. Think about what can help you. Think about taking up some things like meditation or something like that. Um, Everybody needs to have a breather. Everybody needs to take a break. Everybody goes through some struggles sometimes and some challenges sometimes, whether it's if you're caring for somebody or not. So that's just something I just want to pull out that point that we all go through it. You're not alone. And if you need to seek help, then seek some help. But take a look at the podcast on Autumn is Here, and she can give you some ideas and some things to do and some simple things to do that you can put in place that might help you, you know. And I'm also about sleeping. We don't realize that when we toss and turn and we don't get a good night's sleep, it's anxiety. So there are certain things that maybe you can put into place that will help you to sleep better. We may not recognize it, we just think we just have a bad night or we're having a bad week, but it may be anxiety, the things that are on your mind that you go to sleep and can't sleep, and it's just your mind is racing, or it wakes you up in the middle of the night, so you slept for like 3 hours and you're up already and you can't. That's part of anxiety. So recognize it, and hopefully reach out, get some help, and that you're not alone, and there's no shame in it. There's no shame in it. Everybody goes through it. Okay, so if nobody else has anything else to comment or say, that's my show for tonight, my 2 cents. That's my 2 cents for tonight. And I thank you all for coming in and coming on. I appreciate it. And I hope everybody had a great Juneteenth, and they are safe and well today, because the weather was really, 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 really bad, at least in New York. And I know other places have storms. Hi, Lucy. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming on tonight. And Lucy is from Texas. So she wanted me to tell y'all she is from Texas. So thank you. I love that we have a mixture of people from all over the place. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. G. Mary Lovelace. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate that. So please don't forget, go to Autumn is Here. If you haven't subscribe, tell a friend. And one thing more important, share this. If you don't believe that you're going through it or you need it or whatever, share this with someone else. Maybe somebody else is going through it. Maybe your neighbor's going through it. Maybe somebody in your building, somebody in your church is going through it. Please share this and whatever show on Autumn is Here. If you can, just hit the share button and share it with somebody who might be going through. We have to get the word out. We have to talk to each other. We have to help each other out. We cannot wait for the city or the state or the government to do so. We have to do it. Recognize that there is a need in our community, and we have to do it. And there is a need around us, wherever you're at. There is a need. Someone needs some help somewhere. So don't feel bad about sharing some of this information. We really would appreciate that. We just want to get the word out. All right. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Thank you and good night.